Lagos Chamber for Commerce and Industry (LCCI) and PricewaterhouseCoopers (PwC) have been reacting to President Muhammadu Buhari's record 10.3 trillion naira budget proposal. The document presented to a joint session of the National Assembly on Tuesday has a deficit of 2.5 trillion naira and an expected revenue of 8.1 trillion naira. Adeshewa Odushoga has been finding out what financial experts make of the proposed budget. She has more in this next report.
The question of how the federal government plans to fund the 2020 budget has dominated airwaves since the document was made public on Tuesday. While the budget proposal explains that one-third of the total expected revenue of 8.155 trillion naira would come from the oil sector, with projected production level of 2.18 million barrels per day and a benchmark of $57 per barrel, financial experts says the expectations are not feasible.
A lot of observers are asking, why are we projecting 2.18 for next year when the whole of this year we are at 1.8? So it's clearly like we are preparing to have another deficit experience.
If we have 2.18, we shouldn't aim to do 2.18. We should aim to do more than that. Because the problem we always have is we are over ambitious, or put differently, we're too optimistic, and then we under deliver, and then we create more fiscal gap for the budget, which is the reason why our debt profile has been rising.
Another means through which the government plans to generate revenue is from the value-added tax, which has been reviewed from 5% to 7.5%. But experts says reliance on the VAT to boost revenue is a round peg in a square hole.
The budget that was presented by Mr. President is not the budget for the Federation, it's the budget for the federal government. So really, what Mr. President can bank on as an additional income coming from the increase in VAT rate is much less than 100 billion naira. Whereas the fiscal gap we have is in trillions. So this is not going to solve the problem.
The really fundamental issue is not the rate of the VAT, but the coverage. The government itself says that we have a tax net of about 70 million. And so far, the government is struggling to achieve 30%, that is 30 million. So if government was able to raise the tax net, having more and more Nigerian individuals and enterprises, raise that figure from, say, 30 million we have now to about 70 million, you can actually leave the VAT rate as it is, or even reduce it and still collect much more.
The non-oil sector is projected to generate sum of 1.8 trillion naira in 2020, which is much lower than the projected revenue from oil. Experts says it is high time the government began to invest in the non-oil sector, as well as bring back its refinery alive to increase revenue from the oil sector.
If government wants to focus on non-oil revenue sector or non-oil sector itself, it's a good thing, but we shouldn't lose focus. I think Nigeria is at the point where we should focus on everything to the extent that it's possible. Even the oil sector needs to be diversified. We shouldn't just be doing crude oil production. We should do refining, petrochemical. There's a whole lot we should do. Today we spend the number one reason why we spend money, our FX, is importation of refined products.
We need to go to our strengths, and if we address those strengths, we will get back to where we were growing at 7% per annum, and we are a member of the so-called 70% group or club of the world. We were comfortably growing at 6 to 7% per annum GDP for many years before this, and it wasn't because of oil. It was because of the fundamental strengths of the economy, an agro-based economy.
President Muhammadu Buhari's proposal of $34 billion budget for the year 2020 is the biggest in the history of Nigeria. But the reality of this has brought doubt in the minds of its citizens, as revenue generation in his administration is in crisis. Adeshewa Odushoga, TV 360, Lagos, Nigeria.